Okay, so now that we've got our game pretty much complete, all the main thing that's left is to add more levels, add your own assets, and design the different types of levels that your players can have. What we need to do now is actually to build the game itself. So I'm going to go to File and go to Build Settings. And before we actually hit the Build button, let's go to Player Settings here. And there's a few things that we might want to change. So first thing I'm going to do is change the company name. I'm just going to use my name for now. It doesn't really matter what we call it. Obviously, it matters what you call it yourself, but it's not something that players are going to see in general. We have our product name, so I'm going to rename this to be Match Me. And version 1, that doesn't matter. So if you have an icon that you want to use for your game, you can place it in here. It has to be a full texture. So if we want to, let's go with, we'll use the gem icon here. And this will be how the app shows up on your desktop once it's built. And then there's a few other things we can change. As you can see, the icon here, it'll show different scales of it. Not stuff we really need to change too much. We've got resolution and presentation. We can make sure it opens in full screen or all this other kind of things. You can see what kind of aspect ratios you want to have in your game. All that fun stuff to play around with. So obviously I'm building for Windows here in general, but if you're building for mobile or anything like that, there'll be lots of different options you can tweak here. But again, it's all just stuff to kind of look at and see what you want to have. I'm going to turn off the splash screen that is set up by default on Unity here. And then there's other settings here for lighting and all this fun stuff that you can have a look at if you want to, but honestly this is all stuff that I personally never have any cause to look at that stuff. The default settings are all perfectly fine, but we just want to make sure we have a quick look at that before we do anything. I'm going to close this window and now we can go ahead and build the game. So I'm going to hit build here and it's going to ask me where I want to put it. So I'm going to put it in a special folder here for builds, and we're going to hit select folder and it'll start to build the game. So this will take a few minutes to actually build the game itself. So I'm going to pop forward to when the game is actually fully built for us. Okay, so once the game is built, you should get a window open like this, and this is all the files that we need to play our game. One thing to note before we do anything else, well, first of all, there's our little gem icon there. So if I make this bigger, you can see, hey, this is the little gem icon. That's going to be the file that we use to play the game. But one thing to note, if you've never built the game and never shared it with other people, it's really important that you remember, if you give the game to somebody else to play, you need all of these files to be here for people to play. The .exe file is basically just a very minor thing which starts up the game. All the data about your game is in this data folder, and all these other things are necessary as well for the game to actually run. So you need to make sure that you have all of these. You can put it in a zip file or something like that to send to someone else if you want to share with your friends or anything like that, or upload it online. But now that we have that covered, let's go and open the game. And when it opens up, it takes us to our title screen, so we can go ahead and start playing the game here. Because we built a new version of it with a different company name, our star progress has been wiped, so we don't have to worry about that still pertaining from when we actually first made the game. So now we can go in here, we can make some progress, we can try and complete a level, and we can have a bit of fun. And at this point, that's pretty much it. The only thing we need to check when we're in here is that our quitting the game functions work correctly. So if I go ahead and pause this and go quit game, there we go, it'll close out of it. And if we go in here and quit the game from the main menu, it'll also work perfectly fine. But there you go, that's how we can build the game and get things all working nicely. So that's pretty much the last thing we need to do. I'll be back in a moment to talk about some of the things that you could do next with your project.